Hello and welcome. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been scrolling online or watching television and seen an ad for a so-called longevity vitamin? A single pill that promises to turn back the clock, boost your energy, and keep you sharp for decades to come. It's a tempting idea, isn't it? The thought that we could find the secret to a longer, healthier life in a simple bottle? But if you're anything like me, a little voice in the back of your head pipes up and asks, is this for real? Or is it just another company trying to sell me something I don't need? The truth is, Americans spend over $30 billion a year on vitamins and dietary supplements. 30 billion. Yet when researchers from esteemed institutions like Johns Hopkins Medicine look at the big picture, they often find that for most well-nourished adults, these pills don't do much to improve heart health or extend life. In fact, a recent massive study of nearly 400,000 adults found no evidence that a daily multivitamin helps you live longer, and was even linked to a slightly higher risk of early mortality. It's confusing, it's frustrating, and it leaves many of us feeling lost, wondering who to trust. You want to be proactive. You want to protect your health and your independence, but you don't want to waste your hard-earned retirement savings on hype. Well, today, we're going to cut through all of that noise. I want to talk to you not just as a health advocate, but from the perspective of a geriatrician, a doctor who specializes in the health of older adults. We're going to have an honest conversation. We'll start by pulling back the curtain on where this whole idea of a longevity vitamin even came from. Then, we're going to shift gears and focus on what the science actually supports for people over 60. We'll discuss the handful of nutrients that truly matter as we age, the ones where deficiencies are common and supplementation, under a doctor's guidance, can make a world of difference. We will also tackle the great multivitamin debate head-on and talk about those trendy so-called anti-aging compounds you're seeing everywhere. My goal today is not to sell you a product, but to give you knowledge, to give you the confidence to walk into your doctor's office and ask the right questions, so you can build a health strategy that is based on evidence, not marketing. So, let's begin. First things first, let's address the elephant in the room. This term, longevity vitamin. You've probably seen it online, maybe in an article or an ad. It sounds so official, so scientific. But here's the inside scoop. Longevity vitamin is not a scientifically recognized classification. It's a concept that was popularized by a brilliant biochemist named Dr. Bruce Ames. He developed something called the triage theory. It's actually a fascinating idea. Imagine your body is the manager of a busy warehouse with a limited supply of workers. In this case, vitamins and minerals. When a crisis hits, like an infection or an injury, the manager has to make a tough call. They pull all the workers off the long-term projects, like maintaining the warehouse roof or upgrading the computer systems, and sends them to deal with the immediate emergency. The short-term crisis is averted, but over time, the long-term maintenance suffers. The roof starts to leak, the computers get slow. According to Dr. Ames' triage theory, our bodies do the same thing with nutrients. When our intake of a certain vitamin is low, our body prioritizes its use for immediate survival functions. It uses that vitamin to keep our heart beating, our lungs breathing, and our brain firing right now. What gets neglected? The long-term health functions. Things like DNA repair and protecting cells from the slow, cumulative damage that leads to age-related diseases. The theory suggests that certain nutrients, which he called longevity vitamins, are especially important for these long-term maintenance jobs. It's an elegant theory, and it makes a lot of intuitive sense. The problem is, It's incredibly difficult to prove in long-term human studies. Following thousands of people for decades to see if a specific vitamin prevents a disease 30 years down the line is a monumental and expensive task. So, while the triage theory is a compelling piece of the puzzle, for a practicing geriatrician, it remains just that, a theory. In my clinic, we can't base our recommendations on a theory, no matter how interesting it is. We have to base them on what we can measure and what has been proven to help our patients right here, right now. And that brings us to the core of the geriatric approach. We pivot away from the hunt for a single magic bullet and instead focus on a much more practical and effective strategy: identifying and correcting common nutrient deficiencies that specifically affect older adults. It's a subtle but powerful shift in thinking. The goal isn't to reverse aging with a mystery pill, but to ensure your body has the fundamental building blocks it needs to function optimally as it ages. Many older adults feel their doctors are sometimes too busy to discuss supplements or aren't well versed in them, which creates a gap. That's why so many people turn to the internet. But what we know from decades of research at places like the National Institute on Aging is that our bodies change. The way we absorb and use certain nutrients is not the same at 70 as it was at 30. Our dietary needs shift, and that's where the real opportunity lies, not in chasing trends, but in shoring up our foundations. So let's move on from the theoretical and get into the practical. What are these foundational nutrients? I call them the big three for senior health, because these are the areas where we have the strongest evidence and see the most common issues. The first one is vitamin D. You might think of it as the bone vitamin, and you'd be right, but its role is so much more profound. Think of it this way: calcium is the brick needed to build strong bones, but vitamin D is the master bricklayer. Without the bricklayer, the bricks just sit in a pile, useless. Vitamin D is essential for your body to absorb calcium from your diet and deposit it into your skeleton. As we get older, a few things happen. Our skin becomes less efficient at producing vitamin D from sunlight. Our kidneys are less able to convert it into its active form, and we may spend more time indoors. It's a perfect storm for deficiency. I once had a patient, a wonderful woman in her late 70s, who was terrified of falling. She'd become so hesitant to walk around her own home. She was eating yogurt and taking a calcium pill, thinking she was doing everything right for her bones. But a simple blood test revealed she was severely deficient in vitamin D. Her body simply wasn't using the calcium she was consuming. We started her on a medically appropriate dose of vitamin D, and over the next few months, combined with some physical therapy, her confidence soared. It wasn't a miracle. It was just giving her body the tool it had been missing. The action step here is not to just start taking vitamin D. The crucial first step is to talk to your doctor and ask for a blood test to check your levels. A simple test called a 25-hydroxy vitamin D test. That is the only way to know if you actually need a supplement and how much you should take. Taking too much can also be harmful. So this is not a more is better situation. If you are experiencing muscle weakness, bone pain, or have a history of falls, that's your red flag to make that call to your doctor today. Now, that brings us to the second of the big three, and it's one that directly impacts your energy and your mind. I'm talking about vitamin B12. Has this ever happened to you? You find yourself feeling unusually tired, almost a bone-deep fatigue that a good night's sleep doesn't seem to fix. Or maybe you've noticed a bit of brain fog, a little trouble with memory, or even strange sensations like tingling in your hands or feet. It's very easy to dismiss these things as just a normal part of getting older. But they can be classic signs of vitamin B12 deficiency. Here's the science made simple. Vitamin B12 is critical for two of your body's most important systems: the production of healthy red blood cells, which carry oxygen and energy to every part of you, and the maintenance of your nerve cells, including those in your brain. As we age, a condition called atrophic gastritis, which is a thinning of the stomach lining, becomes more common. This reduces the amount of stomach acid we produce. You need that stomach acid to separate vitamin B12 from the protein in the food you eat, like meat, fish, or eggs. So you could be eating a diet rich in B12, but your body can't unlock it and absorb it. Certain common medications, like metformin for diabetes or acid-reducing drugs for heartburn, can also interfere with B12 absorption. The story that always sticks with me is that of a retired accountant I saw, a man who prided himself on his sharp mind. He came to my clinic because his family was worried about his memory. He was forgetting appointments, struggling with his crossword puzzles. His primary doctor had started down the path of dementia screening. But I always start with the basics. We ran his blood work, and sure enough, his B12 levels were dangerously low. We started him on B12 injections, and the transformation over 6 months was nothing short of remarkable. His energy returned, the tingling in his feet vanished, and his mind cleared. He was back to doing the New York Times crossword in ink. He didn't have a degenerative brain disease. He had a treatable vitamin deficiency. So the action step here is similar to vitamin D. If you have persistent fatigue, memory issues, or tingling sensations, don't just accept it. Ask your doctor to test your vitamin B12 levels. This is a critical red flag. And this is especially important if you are a vegetarian or vegan, as B12 is found almost exclusively in animal products. From the bricklayer, vitamin D, and the energy source, vitamin B12, we now turn to the bricks themselves, calcium. This is a nutrient most of us are familiar with, especially women. We've heard about its importance for bone density our whole lives. But that familiarity can sometimes lead to complacency. Let's imagine your skeleton is like a bank account for calcium. Throughout your youth and early adulthood, you make deposits, building up a strong reserve. But as we age, particularly for women after menopause, when estrogen levels drop, we start making withdrawals faster than we make deposits. If that account gets overdrawn, our bones become porous and brittle, a condition called osteoporosis, which dramatically increases the risk of a fracture from a simple fall. A hip fracture can be a life-altering event for an older adult, often marking the beginning of a decline in independence. Now, many people think, I'll just take a big calcium pill and I'll be fine. But the world of calcium is more complex than that. The National Institute on Aging points out that it's best to get your calcium from food sources if you can. Things like dairy products, fortified cereals, tofu, and dark leafy greens like kale and broccoli. Your body is designed to absorb nutrients from food. When it comes to supplements, the evidence gets a bit murky. Some large studies have suggested that high-dose calcium supplements might be associated with an increased risk of kidney stones and potentially even heart problems. This is why the conversation with your doctor is paramount. They can help you assess your diet, consider your personal risk factors for osteoporosis, and decide on a safe strategy. The action step is to take an honest look at your daily diet. Are you consistently getting calcium-rich foods? If not, that's a conversation to have with your healthcare provider. And a key red flag is if you have a family history of osteoporosis or have already experienced a fracture from a minor incident. That's a sign that your calcium bank account needs an immediate audit. All right, let's just take a quick pause. We've deconstructed the hype around longevity vitamins and established that the real power lies in a targeted, evidence-based approach. We've covered the big three that geriatricians focus on. Vitamin D, the master bricklayer for your bones. Vitamin B12, the fuel for your energy and nerves. And calcium, the very bricks that build your skeletal foundation. This is the core of what it means to supplement smartly as we age. And if you're finding this information helpful, if it's cutting through some of the confusion for you, I would be so grateful if you took just a moment to tap that like button below. It really helps this information reach more people just like you who are looking for trustworthy answers. Now, let's get into one of the most common questions I get, a habit many of us have had for decades. Let's talk about the daily multivitamin. For millions of people, taking a multivitamin every morning feels like a responsible, healthy act. It's like a nutritional insurance policy, right? A way to fill in any gaps in our diet. I completely understand the appeal. It's a simple one-a-day habit that makes us feel like we're taking control of our health. And for years, that was the conventional wisdom. But this is where we have to apply what I call empathetic skepticism. We have to honor the good intention behind the habit while critically examining what the latest, highest quality science is telling us. And the message, coming loud and clear from major research institutions, is a challenging one. Researchers at Johns Hopkins Medicine conducted a massive review of studies and came to a blunt conclusion. They said that for the average, healthy American, multivitamins do not reduce the risk of heart disease, cancer, or cognitive decline. In their own words, they concluded that pills are not a shortcut to better health and the prevention of chronic diseases. The thinking is that if you're not suffering from a specific diagnosed deficiency, flooding your system with a cocktail of extra vitamins doesn't provide an extra benefit and may not be entirely harmless. As we mentioned earlier, that huge study of almost 400,000 people published in the journal JAMA Network Open found that multivitamin users did not live any longer than non-users. This isn't to say that multivitamins are useless for everyone. They can be very important for people with specific malabsorption issues or severely restricted diets. But for the vast majority of older adults who are eating a reasonably balanced diet, the evidence suggests that money is likely better spent on the foods themselves. So the empowered choice here isn't to just throw out your multivitamins in anger, but to see this as a liberation. Instead of spending money on a pill that likely isn't helping, you can reinvest that money into a tangible health benefit, like buying higher quality, nutrient-rich foods. Think of it as upgrading from a general, unfocused insurance policy to a direct investment in high-quality assets, like vibrant vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, and whole grains. That's a strategy with a guaranteed return. So if the big three are our evidence-based essentials and the multivitamin is largely a myth for most, what about all those other supplements in what I call the maybe pile? This is where things get even more confusing, because there's a kernel of scientific truth to them, but the evidence is often mixed or not as strong as we'd like. Let's start with omega-3 fatty acids, usually found in fish oil pills. You've heard they're good for your brain and heart. The science is based on the observation that populations who eat a lot of fatty fish, like in Japan or the Mediterranean, tend to have lower rates of heart disease. The theory is that the omega-3s in the fish are responsible. However, when we try to distill that benefit into a pill, the results get fuzzy. A massive analysis of 277 clinical trials, a huge undertaking, found that omega-3 supplements had only a small and, in some cases, negligible potential benefit for heart health. The consensus among many experts, including those at the Mayo Clinic, is now shifting. The best action step is a food-first approach. Aim to eat fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, or sardines twice a week. Your body knows how to use the omega-3s in that natural package, along with all the other beneficial nutrients in the fish. A supplement might be a distant second best. Then you have things like coenzyme Q10 or CoQ10. It's a compound that helps your cells produce energy and acts as an antioxidant. Its levels do decline with age, and people on statin medications can have lower levels. It sounds promising, right? The problem is, studies on CoQ10 supplementation have produced very mixed results for things like heart failure and blood pressure. There's no clear consensus that taking it in pill form provides a major benefit for most people. And what about collagen? It's everywhere now, promising better skin, hair, and joints. Collagen is the most abundant protein in our body. It's the scaffolding that holds everything together. The idea is that by eating it, you can replenish your own stores. While some small studies have shown modest improvements in skin hydration or joint pain, we are a long way from having large, long-term studies to confirm these benefits and establish safe, effective doses. For both CoQ10 and collagen, the most prudent advice is this: talk to your doctor, especially if you are considering them for a specific medical condition. They exist in this gray area of plausible but not proven. A balanced diet with plenty of protein and colorful vegetables will provide your body with the building blocks it needs to make its own collagen and support cellular energy naturally. Chasing these maybes can be an expensive distraction from the foundational habits that are truly proven to work. And that brings us to the final category: the new, hot anti-aging compounds you're likely seeing advertised by influencers and longevity gurus online. I'm talking specifically about things like NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide, and resveratrol. The hype around these is immense, often based on exciting research. But here's the critical context that is almost always left out of the advertisements. The vast majority of this research has been done in yeast, worms, and mice. For example, a lot of the initial excitement about resveratrol, a compound found in red wine, came from studies showing it extended the lifespan of yeast and mice. But humans are not 150-pound mice. Our metabolism is vastly different, and subsequent human trials have been largely disappointing, with some studies suggesting you'd need to consume an impossibly high dose to get any theoretical benefit. NMN is a precursor to a vital molecule in our cells called NAD+, which is essential for energy and cellular repair. And yes, NAD+ levels decline as we age. So the logic seems simple: boost NMN, boost NAD+, and you'll slow down aging. Again, most of the exciting results are in animal studies. We have very little long-term human data on the safety and efficacy of taking these high-dose compounds for years or decades. We simply don't know what the unintended consequences might be. I'm not saying these molecules aren't interesting. They are at the forefront of aging research. But from the perspective of a geriatrician advising a patient today, they belong in the research lab, not in your medicine cabinet. The Federal Trade Commission has had to take action against numerous companies making baseless cure-all claims about anti-aging products. Falling for this kind of hype isn't just a risk to your wallet, it's a potential risk to your health. The truly anti-aging strategy is the one we've been talking about all along: good nutrition, regular movement, quality sleep, and a strong partnership with a healthcare team you trust. And it's that partnership that is the most powerful tool of all. So, how do you take all of this information and turn it into your own personal health blueprint? Here is your action plan, the safe path forward. First, schedule an appointment with your doctor or pharmacist for the specific purpose of a medication and supplement review. Don't try to squeeze it into a visit for your blood pressure. Book a dedicated time. Bring every single bottle you take. prescriptions, over-the-counter pills, vitamins, herbs, everything. Put them in a bag and place them on the table. This allows your doctor to see the whole picture and check for potential interactions or redundancies. Second, don't be shy about asking for tests. Specifically say, given my age, I'd like to have my vitamin D and vitamin B12 levels checked to make sure I don't have a deficiency. This is a reasonable, evidence-based request. Third, become a skeptical consumer. When you see an ad for a supplement, especially one that uses words like miracle, secret, or cure-all, let your red flag go up. Look for who is funding the study they're quoting. Is it the company selling the product? Finally, always prioritize lifestyle over pills. The most powerful longevity tools at your disposal are not found in a bottle. They are a brisk walk in the sunshine, a meal rich in colorful vegetables and lean protein, a good night's sleep, and meaningful connections with people you love. Those are the things that science has proven, time and time again, to be the true heroes of health and longevity. And just a quick but important reminder, the information provided in this video is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I am not your doctor. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have seen here. So let's bring it all home. We started this conversation with the confusing and hyped-up world of longevity vitamins, and we've journeyed all the way to a clear, evidence-based plan. This is a huge win for you. You now understand that the term longevity vitamin is more of a marketing concept than a scientific reality, stemming from the interesting but unproven triage theory. You've won the knowledge that the geriatric approach isn't about chasing magic bullets, but about shoring up your foundational health. You are now armed with specific information about the big three for senior health: vitamin D, B12, and calcium. And you know to ask your doctor for tests before you supplement. You've gained the confidence to question the utility of a daily multivitamin for most people, and to view the maybe supplements like omega-3s in CoQ10 with healthy skepticism, prioritizing food first. And perhaps most importantly, you can now see the cutting-edge hype around compounds like NMN and Resveratrol for what it is: interesting science that is not yet ready for you. The core message today is one of empowerment. You are not at the mercy of aging or confusing marketing claims. You have the power to ask smart questions, to seek out evidence, and to build a partnership with your healthcare team. You are in the driver's seat. Now, I would love to hear from you. Which of these points was the biggest aha moment for you? Was it the truth about multivitamins? The story about vitamin B12 and brain fog? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights and experiences help everyone in this community learn and grow. And if you enjoyed this deep dive and want more trustworthy, no-hype health information designed to help you thrive, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that little notification bell so you won't miss our next video. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Be well, stay empowered, and I'll see you in the next video.